President Trump held his first cabinet meeting of his second term in office at the White House today. Among the topics on the docket were securing the U.S. border with Mexico, President Trump's tariff plans, and the U.S.'s standing on the global stage. But one of the key talking points at the table was Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency and its efforts to slash the size and spending of the federal government.
We have cut billions and billions and billions of dollars. We're looking to get it maybe to $1 trillion. If we can do that, we're going to start getting to be at a point where we can think in terms of balancing budgets, believe it or not, something you haven't heard in many, many years, decades actually.
There have been conflicting statements out of the Trump administration over an email asking all federal employees to reply and state 5 recent achievements or face being fired. Elon Musk, who does not hold an official cabinet position, was at the meeting and discussed that email. Musk is also not the official administrator of DOGE, CBS News has learned, but has been tasked with overseeing its work by the president.
If you have a pulse in 2 neurons, you can reply to an email. This is, I think not a high bar, is what I'm saying. This is, anyone could accomplish this?
Today, the Office of Personnel Management and the Office of Management and Budget issued a memo ordering another round of mass firings for federal workers. The so-called reduction in force is the latest effort by the Department of Government Efficiency to cut what it calls wasteful spending and reduce the size of the government. Let's bring in CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cortez. Nancy, thanks for being here. What else came from the president's first cabinet meeting?
Hey, Lindsay, I think the biggest news item coming out of that meeting is that major spending and job cuts are coming that dwarf even what we've seen so far. The president, for example, floated the possibility that 65% of the staffers at the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, could be cut. This is the agency that is in charge of keeping our air and water safe and clean. And he even suggested that if it were up to him, he would fire everyone at the Pentagon who had anything to do with the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan at the beginning of the Biden administration. He turned to the Secretary of Defense and said that's going to be his purview. But the president made it clear over and over again, as did Musk, that they are looking to go big when it comes to cuts, perhaps as large as $1 trillion in cuts. And so that's going to mean really sweeping federal job cuts.
What more did we learn from Elon Musk today? And also, I think we should point out, Nancy, is it fair to say that people might not be responding to this email saying list 5 things, not because they don't have 2 neurons or a pulse, but maybe because they're worried about implications, they want more feedback from up above, maybe they even find it insulting?
Sure. I mean, the president and Elon Musk both suggested today that the reason they're doing this is because they think that perhaps there are dead people on the federal payroll. Perhaps there are people with 2 jobs who are on the federal payroll. They haven't produced any evidence that this is a wide-scale problem yet, but Elon Musk called it basically a pulse check. Nevertheless, you're right that at least half of all federal workers have not responded yet, and that's because in many cases they've been told by their agency heads not to respond, whether you're talking about the State Department or the Pentagon or DHS or HHS or the intelligence community. All of those workers have been told, actually, you respond to your chain of command. You don't have to respond to the person who is sending you this email, whether it's directed by Elon Musk or anybody else. And so don't respond. It is still causing, I should say, a lot of anxiety among the federal workforce because Certainly. The president said even today, if you didn't respond, you're on the bubble.
The bubble, right, and could lose your job is what he said last night. So, Nancy, you had mentioned that one thing we learned is that cuts are to come that could dwarf what we have already seen. What do we know about this memo to government agencies to submit these reorganization plans and prepare for large-scale firings?
Well, first of all, they only have about 2.5 weeks to do it, which is an incredibly short period of time when you're talking about agencies that in some cases have tens of thousands of workers and have cabinet secretaries who have only been on the job themselves, in some cases for a couple of weeks. And so trying to figure out in that very brief period of time which workers are essential and which aren't, who you can fire, who you can't. That is, as you would imagine, a very, very tall order. But what the memo told them to do was to prepare for large-scale reductions in force. So basically, in plain English, what they want these agency heads to do is to get back to the Trump White House about how they're going to carry out these mass firings as quickly as possible.
All right, Nancy Cortez, thank you.